Good morning, everyone. How the devil are you doing? Let's say good morning to our friend Bjark Tan over on Instagram. Good morning to you. Becoming a bit of a regular over there. Jim Turner's just arrived. I can press Jim's button right now. It's there. Who else have we got? Mark Whiting is in the house as well. Morning, Mark. How are you? Dan Cullen is here. Ken Hatter is here with what weather have you got today, Ken? Let's have a quick look. Oh, yeah, a bit worse than what we've got. It's a bit overcast here, but not too bad. Chris Ford says, morning, Skins. 1, 2, 3, and Skins. Good morning. How are we all doing? How was your weekend? Did you enjoy a long weekend? I hope you all did. A bit of an oversight from me last week, I have to be honest. I mentioned the fact that obviously yesterday was a bank holiday, so I wouldn't be here. I wasn't here, but I'm also not going to be here on Thursday either. I've got a funeral, family friend funeral on Thursday, so I won't be here then either. So we've got today, we've got tomorrow, we've got Friday, but obviously no show yesterday, no show Thursday. So do please be aware of that. Dan Cullen says it's dull and overcast here. Yep. Whereabouts are you? You're back with I'm sure he said. Can't see it now. Did he say he was with Econ again? There you are, back with Econ at the moment. Yeah, he is. I didn't think I'd have mentioned it. And there's Ken saying it's lashing down. Yeah, we've had no rain this morning yet. Does look like we could get some, though, at some point in the not too distant future. And Dan is in Gloucester. Yes, Mr. Foster went to Gloucester in a shower of rain, which seems wholly appropriate for today, doesn't it? What else have I got to tell you? Yeah, we've my morning monologue today. Don't be put off. It starts football related, but that's purely a metaphor. Let me do it again. Purely a metaphor, not a metaphor, as a metaphor. And I'll be getting to that in the fullness of time. So we've got a packed show today. We've got a packed show tomorrow, and hopefully a packed show on Friday as well. So should we start? I think we probably should. Jim Turner says a weekend full of steam, vintage tractors, and plant. Bloody perfect. Yeah, I saw some of your photographs, Jim. Did you manage to get any video? That's what we want to know. Hopefully you did. But it looked like you had a fine old time as well. Incidentally, the Fred Dibner car, was that kosher? Or was that just, somebody had done, a bit like you see lots of trotters, independent traders, three-wheelers about the place. Was that actually a Fred Dibner car, or was that somebody just paying tribute? I'd love to know. Anyway, without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Just to let you know, I've just pressed the button on my question of the day, and I got the last question of the day. Ignore that. I've just done another one, and I'll remind you of it in a moment. But don't take any notice about phrases or words that make your blood boil, because we did that last week. Ignore that. Pretend it never happened. So yes, what have we got? It is Monday, the 27th of May. Welcome to the break. I can't believe May is almost over. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. In today's show, Yanmar adds a new ride-on dumper model to its range. Why Kobelco is Australia's #1 in excavators. The JCB 3CX is the apple of Orchard's eye. See what I did there? And in our latest look back at Bauma 2025, we're on a roll with Dynapac. Yeah, we're going back to have a look around the Dynapac stand at Bauma. And I've already flagged this up, but I'm going to do it again. My morning monologue today is entitled, sort of, From the Theatre of Dreams to the Rubble of Regret, How the UK Demolition Sector Has Allowed Its Global Leadership to Slip Away. It has. And it's a sad thing to see. But before we get to all of that, we do have a small matter of today's mystery machine to contend with, which could go either way, this one, I think. I'll show you. And yes, Jim Turner is just confirming, apparently the photographs that you put on the WhatsApp group yesterday included some Land Rovers with the name Fred Dibner on the side. They are kosher. They are real. They are, and he also thinks his steamroller was there too. The rally was in Lancashire, so his home county. Yeah, indeed. Dan Cullen he's got his sleeves rolled up. He's got his tablet at the ready, and he says, "Right, Chris, the battle's on." Yes, as it stands at the moment, Chris Ford is in a very slim lead over Dan Cullen in our Mystery Machine League table for this month. And we've got, what have we got? We've got today, tomorrow, and Friday. So 3 more to go. Could go right down to the wire, this one. So let me show you the Mystery Machine when I can find it. It looks like that. Now, to be clear, this is a current model. Probably not one that you're likely to see anytime soon, however. And I have changed the colour. That is not its natural hue. I've been out with the paintbrush this morning. I've given a complete repaint. So what do you make of that? We're looking for, as always, we're looking for a make and a model. It is a current model, but it's not normally that color. What do you make of all of that? Let battle commence. While you're doing that, here's the real question of the day. Just going to remind you of this very quickly. Yeah, our question of the day today comes once again from our resident quizmaster, Mr. Gary Muirhead, and it's one we've kind of covered before, but I'd like to take a bit of a different stance on it. His question is this: if you could travel back in time to an historical moment, which one would you choose? Now, I know when we've discussed this before, we've toyed with the idea of popping back to sort of 1938 and putting a bullet between Hitler's eyes. Frankly, I'd be quite happy to do something very similar before Donald Trump became the infection on the world that he has become, but not that. That's not what we're looking for. What would you just like to witness? If you could travel back in time to a day or a date just to witness a thing, what would you like to witness? Now, for me, the first one that came to mind when Gary suggested this was the 1966 World Cup final. I mean, I was about 18 months old when that happened. I've watched it on TV lots of times since, but I would love to have seen that in person. But I'm actually going to go with my second choice. I'd like to go back to the 10th of May, 1980, almost exactly 45 years ago today. And I'd be at Wembley to watch West Ham beat Arsenal in the FA Cup final. Diving header by Trevor Brooking, which I still dream about to this day. But what about you? What historical event would you like to pop back and witness? Do you fancy going back to ancient Rome to watch the gladiators, or a chariot race or something like that? Do you fancy popping back and having a quiet word with Queen Victoria? Winston Churchill, any of those, all of those count. Let's have a look. What have we got in the chat? What do we got? There's the Mystery Machine, and Dan Cullen is going for the JCB 220X. It's not. He's also going for the Komatsu PC 210 LC. It's not. Jim Turner is going for the Link Belt 22 tonner. It's not. But I tell you what, you're not a million miles away. There you are. There's a little bit more. Make a model is what we need. I'll leave that for you to mull over while I do this. As everybody's madly scanning through Google to find out the names of all of the link belt models. I think somebody's just come back. Ken Hatcher reckons it could be a Case 220E. It's not one of those. While everyone's looking for that, we're off to look at something way, way smaller. We're off to see Yanmar and their latest ride-on dumper.
The CO8E is available in 5 vessel configurations: Power, Power Plus, I-Tip, I-Tip Plus, and Turning vessel. Here you can see the very intuitive color touchscreen. On the screen you can change the mode. For that, click on this button and you have access to the 3 modes: Standard, Performance, High Performance. Just click on OK and the mode will be selected. You also have access to important data, such as the temperature, the remaining battery capacity and the autonomy. The autonomy is calculated on how you use the machine last. Let's focus on the maintenance aspect. Since we replaced the engine by an electric system, no more filters and fluids are needed, which means for you less maintenance cost and effort. Once you have connected the charger to the battery, you can close the bonnet and secure the charger on the platform. Are you eager to know more about the Yanmar electric wrench? Meet the perfect partner of this machine, the SV17E, on the next video.
Yeah, things are hotting up on nice little electric machine there. Yes, let's go back to this. That's where we are at the moment. Now, where are we? Let me just find it. Jim Turner set the wheels in motion with that. Dan Cullen leapt on it straight away, as he always does. Link Belt 355 X4S. It's not. It's not the Link Belt 250 X3 either. It's not the 160 X4. It's not the 220 from Chris Ford. And it's also not the 300 X4. Here's a bit more. Some track. Everybody's in the right ballpark, but you've not quite on the money as yet. Keep the guesses coming. And we're talking other excavators. We're going down under in just a moment to find out why Kobelco excavators are quite so popular down under, immediately after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Well, I thought I was going to do Kobelco next, but I can tell you, Chris Ford is 3 points in the lead. Chris Ford is 6 points in the lead. He's just come up with the exact right answer. There we are. CF, 3 points. Chris Ford is looking very, very strong in the mystery machine right now. I'll show you exactly what it is. Let me take Chris out of the way. Let me put it on the screen because that will make a whole lot more sense. There you are. It is, in fact, the Link Belt X4 190 X4S, as Chris has correctly identified. So with let me think, we've got Wednesday and Friday. The best that Dan Cullen can do now is to tie the lead, in which case we'll have to come up with two prizes. Or if Chris can get another one between now and Friday, game over. Chris Ford will that'll be his first win, I think. I'm fairly sure that will be his first win. Gary Muirhead coming in belated with the Zoomline ZE225. I can understand that completely with that choice of colour. That's not the natural colour. The actual colour is obviously red and white. Chris Ford, congratulations. Well done, my friend. Right, okay, we're going down under now, and we're going to be talking Kobelco excavators, which are quite popular among our Aussie cousins.
Kobelco has been setting the benchmark in the 13 to 15 tonne excavator class with the popular SK135SR for years. In fact, it has been the #1 selling machine in its class in Australia for well over a decade, thanks to its smooth and powerful hydraulics, which provide excellent feel and control along with unbeatable fuel efficiency. The all-new SK135SR-7 is the latest machine in Kobelco's groundbreaking new -7 series of short radius excavators. It's our biggest upgrade yet. Like all machines in the -7 series, the new SK135SR embodies Kobelco's engineering philosophy of performance meets design. This concept means that our engineers have set out to create a new generation of excavators, taking digging performance to the next level. Combined with the modern design, it sets a new standard for operator comfort and safety. Weighing in at around 15 tonnes, the new SK135SR-7 is manufactured at Kobelco's heavy excavator factory in Japan. It delivers unsurpassed quality, along with the durability and performance that Australian and New Zealand contractors demand. With an 86 kilowatt engine, the SK135SR is best in class. That's 10% more power compared to the previous model. Bucket breakout force is also increased by 17%, and overall you're going to see 10% improvement in cycle times. The SK135SR-7 meets all of the latest global emission requirements, and it does it without the need for a DPF. which means you have a machine that's future-proof and ready for any job site with reduced maintenance costs. Whether you choose the standard mono boom design or the versatile offset boom, the SK135SR comes standard with factory-installed quick hitch piping, a proportional hand-controlled hammer, an auger circuit, and a dedicated pump for the standard tilt-rotate lines. Whatever type of hitch or attachment you need, this machine is ready to work straight from the factory. Swing torque and pushing power are best in class with the new SK135. The standard ROPS and FOPS rated cab also comes standard with the FOPS Level 2, which is hinged for easy serviceability and maintenance. The machine has a rugged X-frame car body with an undercarriage that's been designed to automatically shed material. There's a wide boom foot, which further ensures secure durability of the SK135. Entry and exit to the cab has been designed for safe 3-point ingress and egress. The controls are fully adjustable with independent movement of the control position and the armrest. The Kobelco exclusive INDR system reduces job site noise and protects the cooling package from airborne debris. There's an optional counterweight available for added stability. The air conditioner filter and the fuse panel is easily accessible from behind the operator seat. We designed the machine with better sight lines to improve operator visibility. The Bluetooth radio allows audio streaming. It also allows hands-free control of your mobile phone. The air conditioner features automatic climate control for a comfortable working environment. There's a standard 12-volt outlet for charging your phone. The machine has LED working lights for improved job site visibility at night. LED backlit switches make controls easily accessible even with reduced visibility. As you can see, the all-new SK135SR is faster and more productive than ever, with more power, additional safety features, and the Japanese quality and durability that comes standard with every Kobelco. The cabin also sets a new benchmark for the industry with a premium interior and a high level of finish designed to reduce operator fatigue and improve comfort over long hours behind the controls. If you want to see firsthand why Kobelco is the #1 selling brand in its class, contact one of our local dealers around Australia and New Zealand and ask them for a demonstration of the all-new SK135SR-7 and see how Kobelco is once again redefining the next generation of excavators.
So back to the mystery machine, which we already know. It was the link belt. There's Dan Cullen, magnanimous in defeat as always. Well done, Mr. Ford. Gary Muirhead saying, well done, Mr. Ford. Chris is saying, everyone can have a free guest tomorrow because he's in hospital having some tests. Well, good luck with the tests. But yes, everyone gets a free shot tomorrow because Chris Ford, who is currently way out in the, well, two wins out in the lead. Yes, he is not going to be here tomorrow. There is Chris saying, I was being a woman, multitasking, loading lorries and guessing the mystery machine. You'd think they wouldn't turn up at 10:05 to load. Are you telling them, Dan? He may well be. Jim Turner, going back to our question of the day, which was, what historical event would you like to witness? The building of the pyramids or Barnes Wallace's development, testing and final use of his ideas through the war? Yeah, absolutely. Have you had anything from the SK1300 demo machine? Nothing at all. I've got to be honest with you, Gary. I've kind of given up. I've seen a few photographs of the SK1300 with Liberty Industrial over in Gove in Australia, but film, I've kind of given up. And there's Dan saying Kobelco is far superior to Hitachi. Jim Turner saying good luck for tomorrow, Chris. Yes, absolutely. And according to Dan, yes, he is telling people to go and get loaded by Chris to put him off the mystery machine. Well played, Dan. As if using Google Lens weren't enough. Right, okay, we're going to be back with JCB3CX because, you know, why wouldn't we?
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, there is a company called Orchard Homes. Orchard Homes. And the JCB3CX is the apple of their eye. Here it is.
My name's James Hurrell and I have a company called Orchard Homes, and we are a small house builder near York. We have a 3CX Contractor Pro. On site we've used it for doing all the drainage, the oversight, moving all the materials around, putting the beams on, bringing the blocks in. It's easy when we need the forks, we just drop the bucket off, it takes a minute and off we go. It's a forklift then. We also have a pan mixer that fits onto the front of the machines and it turns it into a concrete mixer. The convenience of having the pan mixer means if you just want a metre of concrete, you're not waiting, you can just get on and mix it. Currently we're just lifting the floor beams on. Backhoe's great for this sort of work because of the visibility. So when you're doing a job like this, you need the machine to be really stable. These beams are nearly 5 metres long, so we've got great reach as well. The machine just sits there, yeah, it's not jumping around anywhere. It's like two machines in one. It's an excavator, it can move materials around easy enough. It saves us bringing other machines in, saves us on hire. It's a tight site, so having the one machine that can do different jobs is a big help. We've always had them so you know the capabilities of one, what we can do with it on site. You know it's always there and ready to do the next task. As a small business, we need the versatility of a machine like that.
Yeah, I need no convincing on that at all. Let's have a look. Dan Cullen, going back to historic events he'd like to witness. The landings in Normandy. Yeah, you need to keep your head down, but yeah, what an amazing feat that would be to actually see that. Chris Sword says, my thanks to Jim Turner. I was thinking John Deere to start with on the Mystery Machine. Soon be the Cromford Steam Fair. When is that? Where is, well, I'm guessing Cromford. I don't even know where Cromford is, but when is that? Let me know. Jim Turner says, great tool, but I'd also have the bucket mounted forks too. Quite a popular choice, that I would say. What have we got? We got one more film. One more film. I think we've got one more film. Yeah, we're going back to Bauma in a moment with Dynapac. Back after this. Yeah, this is a great shout from Gary, I have to say. Going back in history, love to be watching the very first JCB 3CX being constructed and know the big impact it's going to have in the world. Yeah, I think people, I wonder if the modern generation actually realise just how big a contribution the 3CX actually made to the world. Or the backhoe loader, should I say. It's the very fact that it kind of mechanised an awful lot of what had been done manually before. Yeah, imagine being standing there in the old JCB shed with Joe Bamford as it wheels out the first ever 3CX. Well done, Joe, on that. Thank you very much indeed. And Dan Cullen, yeah, they are the Rolls-Royce of backhoes. Can't argue with that one bit. Jim says it's just outside Matlock. You and Fred nearly knew to have the weekend up here. It's in August. So long as it's not the beginning of August, that's a possibility. I'm going to be on a cruise at the very beginning of August, but I'll keep you posted on all that. And Dan Cullen saying good luck for tomorrow, Chris. Yeah, good luck from all of us. Yeah, what are we doing? I'm just going to remind myself. I think we've done that bit. So yeah, Dynapac. Let's go back to Bauma with Dynapac. The weather has found Dan. It's now starting to rain. First bit of rain he's had in weeks. Yeah, well, it's Britain. It will soon be time for Wimbledon. You can guarantee it's going to chuck it down for that, can't you? What else have we got? Oh, I know we've got the morning monologue. So let me wrap things up. That's about it for the main part of this morning show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, do please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'm going to be back with what starts out as a bit of a football monologue, but trust me, it's just a metaphor. Even if you're not into football, you'll get the gist. I'll be back in just a moment. I'm not a Manchester United fan. Let me get that out of the way right up front. I support West Ham, have done for more years than I care to count. And for most of those years, I dreaded our meetings with Manchester United. They didn't just beat us, they dominated us, humbled us, humiliated us. You'd go into a game already resigned to the likely outcome. It wasn't just the quality of their players or the brilliance of their manager. It was something intangible, an aura, a sense of inevitability. Manchester United weren't just a team, they were a force of nature. They were, quite simply, the gold standard. Funny thing is, I used to feel the same way about the UK demolition industry. For a long time, it was feared and revered, respected and admired, not just here, but around the world. Our methods were studied, our equipment was envied, our expertise unmatched. Clients wanted a British firm not just because we were good, but because we were the best. Like Manchester United, we'd built a legacy. And like Manchester United, we thought that legacy would last forever. But that is not how the world works. There was a time when Manchester United represented the very pinnacle of footballing excellence. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, they were ruthlessly efficient, fiercely competitive, and astonishingly consistent. Their recruitment was smart, their youth development was visionary, and their leadership rock solid. You didn't need to support them to recognise their brilliance. They made success look effortless, but only because they worked tirelessly to make it so. And while United were lifting trophies, the UK demolition industry was quietly achieving its own greatness. We led the world in controlled demolition. Our engineers and operators executed high-risk projects with surgical precision. We took down tower blocks in dense city centres, bridges over motorways, and disused industrial sites with minimal disruption. Our safety protocols were world-class. Our training programs were emulated. We weren't just doing the work, we were defining how the work should be done. But success has a nasty habit of curdling into complacency. Man United started believing that their name alone would carry them forward, that their past glories were enough to secure their future. They stopped evolving. They appointed managers without vision, signed players without purpose, and lost their tactical identity. The football world changed around them, but they stood still. They didn't just get caught, they got overtaken. And the same thing happened to the UK demolition sector. We believed our own hype. We assumed that because we'd been the best, we'd stay the best. We thought we were too big to fail, but we weren't. And just like United, we didn't even notice how far we'd fallen until it was too late. Now, as a West Ham supporter, I can say this with a degree of satisfaction I never expected. I now look forward to playing Manchester United. The fear has gone. The inevitability has gone. I watch a club now struggling with its own identity, unsure of what it wants to be or how to get there. There's money, yeah. There's still global recognition. But the edge, the one that made them different, is gone. And that's precisely the feeling I have now when I look at our demolition sector. The swagger remains, oddly enough, but it feels misplaced. We still have a few good individual players. Those players still deliver a good performance from time to time. But those individual flashes of brilliance are not enough to compete on the world stage. We talk about leadership, but leadership requires more than history. It requires vision, accountability, and progress. We've clung so tightly to the idea that we were the world leaders that we've overlooked an uncomfortable truth. We're not anymore. Nowhere is that more painfully evident than in the wake of the CMA scandal. If Man United's decline was defined by poor decisions, UK Demolition's fall from grace has been marked by something far worse: deliberate and calculated wrongdoing. The bid rigging exposed a rot beneath the surface. Clients trusted us to act with integrity. The public trusted us to operate fairly. That trust was broken, and it hasn't been rebuilt. So what do we do now? In both cases, Man United and UK Demolition, we see institutions with a proud past and an uncertain future. The warning signs were ignored. The competition was underestimated. The assumption was that the world would wait, but it didn't. Others caught up, others surpassed. For Man United, that means losing out on Champions League nights and becoming a punchline in football banter. For Demolition, it means finding ourselves less and less central to the global conversation we once led. And still, the two stories continue to run in eerie parallel. There's a grim symmetry here. Two once great names, so used to winning that they forgot how to keep winning. They stopped evolving, stopped learning, started assuming that the world would wait for them, and it didn't. Manchester United is a club that keeps throwing money at the problem, hoping for a quick fix. A flashing new signing, a high-profile manager, a new big-name sponsor. But nothing sticks because the problem runs deeper. They don't know who they are anymore. They've lost the culture that made them great. And Demolition is doing much the same. We publish mission statements. We host poorly attended seminars. We give people medals and meaningless titles. But these things don't rebuild trust, and they certainly don't spark a renaissance. The problem isn't surface level, it's structural. We've forgotten how to innovate. We've forgotten how to lead. We've lost our swagger, or rather, we've kept the swagger. We've just stopped earning it. There's a phrase in football: they're living off their name. It's usually said of players who peaked years ago but still pull in a big paycheck because of what they used to be. That's us, in a nutshell. We're living off a name, off a reputation that no longer reflects reality. And if we don't change that, soon we'll find that that name doesn't mean what it used to. But here's the thing: neither Manchester United nor the UK demolition industry seems particularly interested in any real introspection. The signs have been ignored, the alarms silenced, the competition dismissed. Both keep pretending that the world still sees them the way they used to be seen. And they're wrong. Manchester United are no longer feared. They're barely even respected. They're a bloated, confused shadow of what they once were. Less of a football club, more a brand shuffling through its greatest hits tour, hoping no one notices how far they've fallen. And right now, that's us too. The UK demolition sector is coasting, still talking like a global leader, still acting like the top dog, but with a bark that's barely audible. And this isn't a lull. It's not a blip. This is a decline. And if we're honest about it, if we keep shrouding it in nostalgia and self-congratulation, we won't bounce back. We'll continue to fade. In a decade's time, we'll still be talking about what used to be, but we'll be doing it not from the top of the industry premiership, but from the demolition championship. There you are. I was hoping to get that out last week. For those of you that follow football, and I know that's not all of you, Man United got beaten in the cup final by Spurs, which is deeply embarrassing because Spurs are terrible as well. Dan says, like triggering only fools and horses, same broom has 6 new heads and 8 new handles. Absolutely right. There you are. Same as many construction demo companies. Let the ball rolling far too long to get a grip on it. All these scandals keep breaking the trust. I was thinking to myself, and this is not a criticism of the NFDC. This is this criticism of the industry. I was trying to think of something that the demolition industry as a whole has done, or the UK demolition industry has done in the past 5 years, 10 years, 20 years that has actually moved the needle. Can't think of anything. The only thing I could come up with was when, I think this would have been around about 2008, when the NFDC made their site audit scheme compulsory as part of their membership. But even that comes with a caveat in that you are told in advance that the auditors are going to come and have a look at your site. So it was a step forward. It was a step forward, but it wasn't. It was just a beginning, and even now, 17 odd years later, it is still just a beginning. They've not taken it to the next stage, whereby it is a completely independent. You know, how many of the companies in their membership now would pass an audit if it was done on a surprise basis? Somebody would just turn up out of the blue and run a check over their sites. Probably not very many. And one of the other things, I mean, obviously the inspiration for that was the Man United losing in that. I mean, they were in a cup final that nobody cared about because it was a minor European championship, and they lost as well. So they couldn't even win a lesser trophy. That was the inspiration, but the real inspiration was getting to look at demolition sites up and down the country. And I mentioned, you know, we do still have some very good players, Armac and AR Demolition, Downwell, and people like that. But the number of sites that I drive past or I pay a visit to, and you look around, you think you were probably getting away with exactly the same as this 20 years ago, and you've not made the next leap. Now you can blame that on the regulators of the industry. Have they done enough to move the needle? Have they done enough to bring the industry into the next generation? Probably not. But when you think of all that's going on in the world in terms of technological development, you know, there are still demolition companies in the UK that are run by people that have a secretary to print off their emails for them because they haven't fathomed how to work email yet. You know, we've had email for quite a while. You know, how many people are embracing technology to the degree that they really could? Here's an interesting one. Expert Demolition Pty Limited have just joined us. Pty, I'm guessing that means Expert Demolition are probably in Australia or South Africa. Pty is an Australian South African thing. Expert Demolition, where are you watching from? Let us know in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. Love your name, by the way. And just while you're here, assuming you can hear me loud and clear, can you point at a thing that the demolition industry as a whole, not individual companies, but the demolition industry as a whole has done in the last 20 years that you believe has taken the industry forward in some way? Be interested to hear from you. Chris Ford, going back to our question today, what historical event would you like to witness? The coronation of Queen Elizabeth. Yeah, 1952. 1952. My obviously my parents. I'm fairly sure my mum told me that she was actually part of the route. You know, the parade through London. I'm fairly sure she went along to see that. Can't ask her because she's not around anymore. Dan says, as well as greed, making company into a group, more profits from blindsiding them from being a fantastic company, lost sight of their values. Yeah, values is a really good word, and it covers a multitude of sins. I wonder how many companies still have that value. You know, we talk a lot about family values in the industry because, you know, we've got a lot of second, third, and fourth generation demolition companies. What about the other values? You know, those values of transparency and honesty and, you know, just generally doing things the right way. How many still have that? You know, and, you know, I can name 10 companies that most clearly don't have that because the CMA uncovered it for us. Gary Muirhead says, we used to be world leaders in the demolition industry. Now we're being left behind by other countries and are moving forward leaps and bounds, especially the Italian people with their amazing equipment. Yeah. In a couple of weeks' time, maybe 3 weeks' time, I'm off to Italy, actually. We're doing the European Demolition Association are doing a fact-finding mission to Italy. my guess is a lot of that is going to be built around attachments. I mean, obviously, I know you're talking about Lorini and what have you, but I think we can all recognise that the Italians are pretty damn good when it comes to attachments as well. Trevi Beni, Mantovani Beni, Pro Move, Italmec, MB Crusher, and so on down the line. But I'll tell you a very quick story, and this would have been around about 2008, 2009. I went to the European Demolition Association awards. I'm fairly sure it was in Amsterdam. I'm fairly sure it was in Amsterdam. That doesn't matter. So I went along, and there's various awards. Best contract over £1 million, best contract under £1 million, best contractor, and so on down the line. And at that time, basically the entire event came down to a straight head-to-head between Erith from the UK and Despe from Italy. Now, about probably a week after that happened, I was attending an NFDC event, and one of the guest speakers hadn't turned up. So I was thrown in at the deep end, and can you stand up and talk about the World Demolition Awards and the fact that a British company basically won in the end? So I literally, off the cuff, I had no notes or anything else. I literally made it up on the spot, and I did it like a football commentary. The Erith went into an early lead by winning such and such award, but then Despe from Italy pinned them back, and then Despe went into the lead by winning this thing. And it all came down to the final thing, Demolition Contractor of the Year, and the winner was Erith. 3-2 to the English. The Italians defeated at the last. And that's what I did. I can't think that would be repeated today. I think Despe are one of, if not the best in the world. I think the Italians are very, very good. I think the Australians are very, very good. I think the New Zealanders are very good. Now, don't get me wrong. I do still think we have some Brits that do the job very, very well. But they've been caught up. And even to the point where, we used to quietly mock the Americans, because the Americans still had lots of landfill space, so they weren't so worried about recycling, and they still clung on to wrecking balls, and they were very quick, very, very slow to react to the advent of high reach demolition. So you could point them like, look at those poor old buggers. Look at them now. There are companies there in America and in Canada that are as good, if not better, than what we have here. And that's happened. Let me think. 2008. I mean, 2008. Well, probably back a few years before that, maybe 2005. So 20 years ago, I think the first World Demolition Awards was almost entirely won by British companies. British manufacturers, British demolition companies. Not now. And that's partly, I think, because the Australians, the Americans, the New Zealanders, the Spanish, the Italians, the French, the Dutch, the Germans have all come on at a pace. But it's also down to the fact that we, if anything, well, at best, we've stood still. In some ways, I kind of feel like we've taken a bit of a step back. And despite all that I said about football, the real standout factor that made Manchester United the formidable force that they were for that period, back during the mid-90s, the real thing that made them stand out was leadership. Players came and went. But David Beckham was one of the best players we've ever produced. He left, went to Real Madrid, but Manchester United carried on winning. They lost Roy Keane, one of the best captains they ever had, and they carried on winning. And the reason for that was because there was a guy in the dugout chewing his chewing gum called Sir Alex Ferguson, who was just a winner. It was down to leadership. We used to have that. We used to have that leadership in the demolition industry, and we really don't anymore. Dan Cullen says the NFDC has pulled the industry down the hill and not supportive of the industry in the UK and its people. Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard one to talk about this. There was, when I wrote the first ever copy of the history of the demolition industry, or the history of the NFDC rather, I did it at, I think I did their 70th anniversary. And there were certain people that you would mention in dispatches whenever you were talking about the history of the UK demolition industry, and more specifically the NFDC. People like Claude Brown, and more specifically Sidney Hunt Senior, who basically took kind of an old boys club and made it something real and tangible. You know, the National Demolition Training Group was born out of the NFDC because they saw the need for custom training for the demolition industry. And when I was writing the history, you know, those two names kept popping up time and time again: Claude Brown, Sid Hunt, and to a degree early doors of Howard Button's chief executiveship, if that's a word. It's exactly the same thing. You know, there was a leadership, and then you look at what's happened since. You know, there is a new president in place. He's been there since March. I don't know what he's done. Literally, not a clue. Nothing. You know, has he changed a rule or a regulation? Has he formed a working party to improve something? Has he triggered a revisit of some guidance, or has he responded to an accident or a fatality? Nothing. Nothing. It's the end of May. So he's had 2 months at least, probably more like 2.5 months. Nothing. Truth be told, the next time we probably hear anything from the NFDC will be when they come back from their convention sometime in August. Didn't we have a jolly time? Well done on that. That's great. You all had a holiday. That's really moved the needle on the industry, isn't it? Sad part is the people in the industry have lost all care and value and leadership. Yeah, I agree. Funnily enough, I'm writing a thing at the moment about that very thing, and I think part of it, I can't blame company owners and industry leaders entirely, but we've got the worst. It's almost like the perfect storm now. We've got a leadership that doesn't seem to give a toss, and we've got a workforce that also doesn't seem to give a toss. Like the number of people that, you know, if you walk onto the average site, spend an hour or so on site and watch the workforce, and sooner or later you'll see somebody like this on their mobile phone. Now, listen, you know, I earn my living partly from social media. I'm very keen to be on Instagram or YouTube or whatever it might be, but they are losing, you know, minutes, hours, days of man hours because they can't be asked to do anything other than spend time on their phone. Evro Demolition just said hello. Whereabouts are Evro Demolition? They're over on Instagram. I can see that. Whereabouts are you in the world, fellas or ladies? Love to hear from you. Yeah, they change presidents like Skittles. Well, nothing new. That's the important point. They do change. I mean, the presidents generally, unless they choose to oust one because their face didn't fit, they have a 2-year period in the hot seat. And do what exactly? Now, the last one, John Lynch, who was president up until March of this year, you know, he put in place a new CEO who has now left. He moved them from one place in Hemel Hempstead to another. So I guess he can point to that as an NFDC thing and an NDTG thing. He achieved something. You know, he put them into a better office, a better situation, and everything else. I guess he can claim that. But two things. First of all, it happened before he actually became president. He was working behind the scenes. And the second thing is, neither of those things, you know, the new CEO and the new office, have actually benefited the members or the wider industry. It's just something to say, well, you know, look, new office, look, new CEO. Evro Demolition are watching from Russia. From Russia. Good. From Russia with love. Good morning to Evro Demolition from Russia. Morning, gentlemen and ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't remember seeing a Russian demolition company on here before, but you're very, very welcome. The love of the work has gone downhill. No one cares. All they want is a pay packet. Yeah. And funnily enough, that's the angle I'm coming at it from. And I'm basing one of my columns on that very thing. I fell victim to the thing that I'm writing is called Employer's Dream, Employee's Nightmare. Okay. I worked for a guy who was he was my boss, but he was incredibly lazy. And he took advantage of the fact that I wasn't. You know, I treated my old magazine like it was my baby. I would stay up all night to get it done. You know, I'd work all the hours that God sends and everything else. And unfortunately, that's what we've got in our midst now. Because I know that's a sweeping generalization, but there are people, and I would include some of our viewers here. I mean, Dan, the love of the work has gone. No one cares. Some people do care. You would be one of them. Jim would be another. Ken would be another. Gary, Chris would be another. The problem you've got is you care. You know, you will put in the graft, you'll put in your shift, possibly work a little bit longer to get the job done, maybe start a little bit earlier, maybe you'll go away and teach yourself a few things on YouTube or whatever it might be so that you're better equipped to do your job. And your boss lets you get on with it. You're not paying you anymore. They're not, you know, but they let you get on with it because if you're doing it, they don't have to. And then those below you are also doing the same. You know, you've got those, they're on their mobile phones, or that's not my job, or I don't know how to do that. I'll leave it to Dan or to Jim because they know how to do it. Learn, but they don't, you know, and we just keep perpetuating that thing. What have we got here? Chris Ford says, hang on a minute. That's gone the wrong way. Here we are. I know guys do cars just to get better pay, not for the love of operating and learning. Yeah, that's true enough. Chris Ford says the Russian military is a pretty good demolition company looking at how they leave things. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah, the Israelis aren't doing a bad job either, are they? And I do mean that they're very much tongue in cheek. What have we got? Wonder what the injury death figures are for demolition companies outside the UK. Good question. In the World League table, and I've only ever seen this once or twice over the period of about 30 years, we do okay. We do okay. We kill, by and large, we kill less people than most. The Scandinavians are pretty good. People like the Germans are pretty good. Obviously, you have to base it on a per capita basis because some countries are way, way bigger than us. America, not such a great track record, but the Aussies, pretty good. You know, they've got some very, very good companies there doing some very good work, and very, very good regulations as well. The Kiwis, much the same again. But no, we don't do too badly on that. But, you know, there was a time, you know, I mean, even up until fairly recently, you know, I was at a Con Expo a couple of years ago, and met a guy, I've mentioned him on the show before, Ricky Webb from East Coast Demolition in the States. And the reason he recognized me was that he watches this show, and he doesn't watch it for my good looks and my insight. He watches it primarily to see what the Brits are up to. And he's been replicating what the Brits have been doing. So, you know, he was fairly early doors with High Reach because the Brits were doing it. He's been a bit of an advocate for Oil Quick and that kind of thing because the Brits were doing it. So he's studying what the Brits were doing, and he's replicated it and modified it to suit his own workplace. I wonder if he's learned anything in the last 5 years from us. I know, Ricky, if you're watching, I'm sure you have learned plenty, but I wonder if he's learned anything from the Brits in the last 5 years. I would hazard a guess not, because I can't remember genuinely, and I'm not just being a moaning Minnie. I genuinely cannot remember the last time I thought, wow, the Brits just took a leap. They just moved things forward. You know, watch the others follow. Going back even further than that, if you look at the National Demolition Association over in America, about 1,000 members, massive organization. Their rules, regulations, articles of association, their constitution, you know, they're American. I'm sure they love a constitution. It basically started as a complete 100% copy of the NFDC. They took the British model, modified some of the spelling, modified a few phrases, and that's how the NDA came to be. You look at it now, the NDA, with their convention is a proper working thing. Lots of machines on demonstration, opportunity to get up close with the equipment, get up close with the contractors, very well attended by contractors from across the country. You go to an NFDC convention and the equipment manufacturers and suppliers outnumber the demolition contractors 4, 5, 10 to 1. So the demolition contractors basically can't be asked, and why should they? I think the latest demolition, the latest convention, I can't even remember where it is. Is it Budapest or something like that? It's 1,200 quid for a couple of days, and all you'll do is sit around for a couple of hours for a meeting, have a bit of a fancy nosh one evening. Maybe a few manufacturers will stand up and give you a presentation, and you're paying 1,200 quid for a couple of days. What's the point? I cannot remember anyone going to an NFDC convention and coming back and say, well, glad I went to that because I learned a thing. Doesn't happen. And all the while that's happening, that leadership, that admiration that came from around the world is gradually ebbing away. And nobody seems to, they've either not noticed or they just don't care. We've got ourselves in a bit of a rut, I think. We shall see. I don't suppose that column will be circulated very widely in NFDC or IDE circles, but hey, it is what it is. I'm only speaking as I find. That's all I can do. I will be back tomorrow for yet more of the same. May well be talking about that idea of, those that care are put upon and those that don't care just get away with murder. Maybe doing that tomorrow. We'll see how it pans out. I've got another one written, but it's a bit too close to the one I've just done. So I'll probably do that one tomorrow, assuming I can get it finished. Don't forget, no show Thursday because I'm at a funeral, which I'm not looking forward to one bit, primarily because my eldest son is one of the pallbearers because it was his best mate that's sadly no longer with us. So no show on Thursday, but I'll be back on Friday, at which point we may well crown Chris Ford as this month's champion of the Mystery Machine. We shall see. Everybody, until then, have a good day. I'll be back tomorrow 10 a.m. Till then, have a great day. Look after yourselves. And even if those around you are not working hard, crack on because you care, like I do. See you tomorrow.